He is the highlight, Justin Gaethje, in the fight of the year of 2021 at UFC 268. Yourself, Michael Chandler. What a phenomenal performance by both of you, really. The first round was really the most adversity you faced. How much trouble would you say you were in there? Was it spotty for a while, or did you feel like you just had to relax and be calm like you usually are?
Yeah, I mean, so the one shot that I landed that rocked me, that made me take a couple of goofy steps. That one had me, it just buzzed me real quick. But I wouldn't consider myself in extreme danger, other than the fact that I was going backwards, and in those situations, you're, taking shots going backwards, and in that chaos are dangerous, more dangerous than normal. So yeah, I would say I was in a little bit of danger, but I think, man, after about 3.5, 4 minutes, I really had it figured out. You know, I was able to compose myself after that exchange, and yeah, I was really so dominant after that 4 minute mark of the first round.
Was that one of those shots really that just kind of stumbles your equilibrium side of the head, sort of thing?
Yeah, just I mean, other than I think I was shook for like literally 1 second, or less than 1 second. It was initial buzz, and then it was back to normal. It wasn't like, oh shoot, I'm in trouble, I need to figure this out. It was just really really quick, and then back to normal within a second. So it wasn't as bad as it looked, but yeah, I mean, I would say I was in some danger.
Now, you spoke to John Anik the other day about the fight and about Mike Beltran, the referee. Yeah, I just rewatched the fight, and I could see, of course, what you were talking about. But one other thing that he missed was getting in between you and Chandler when he had called timeout, which resulted in
Oh
you
yeah.
taking really an unnecessary shot.
Well, that was by far the biggest and the first mistake that was made. You know, I hate to criticize Mike, but I like the guy. I like him a lot. You know, he came to the back, and these are instances that even shouldn't be talked about in public. Other than there was really no personal information that was shared between us two. He was intent and content that he heard me say I'm good. And I just can't understand why he, for one, didn't even look in my eye. He didn't come to my face and say, "Let me see your eye." Um, So the whole procedure was incorrect. But yeah, the first and the biggest mistake was not getting in there. Like, you cannot call timeout from 2 or 3 feet away, and you know, 98% of the time the fighter stops. 99.5% of the time I stop before I take that opportunity to land that shot. But I do not blame Michael Chandler whatsoever. Like, I actually respect that he took his opportunity and took that shot, because the rep didn't do his job, and you know that could have changed. He was not going to win at that point. No, other than the chance and the luck, he had no factor of winning after that fight. I had figured him out. He knew that. I knew that. And so yeah, you take that shot. Like, I don't blame him at all. But yeah, I mean, it was just it's a 50-second sequence of events, and like in the court of law, those 50 seconds would be scrutinized second by second, and if you go through it, like, it just didn't happen correctly. And I sound like I'm complaining. It sounds like some bitching, but I'm just bringing something up that I experienced, and I think it should be talked about, because yeah, you know, if he accepts the fact, like, there's one fact that happened. He made a mistake not jumping in there, and then, whether it was ego, I talked to him in a disrespectful way, like, immediately. Like, I was not happy that I took that shot, and I did not talk to him in a respectful way. But we're in a war right now. Like, there is no. It doesn't matter how something is said. The only thing that matters is what is said. And yeah, just he asked me if I was good. I said no, I'm not good. I got poked in the eye. And then he asked me immediately after that if I was good. And so like, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, like, right now, like, because I don't care. But in that moment, I am the sharpest, and every single second is being processed and analyzed and determining the choices that are being made. And like, my recollection of that event is so clear that he wasn't willing to acknowledge that he up the first time, and then he exasperated it, and then in the back he didn't understand or he didn't take accountability. So for me, that's the issue, because whatever, and he's human and we make mistakes, but you have to be able to acknowledge and accept when you make a mistake. And a mistake was made, and luckily it did not change the course of the fight, but it very easily could have. And if I lose that fight because of that, other than that, I was on point and so composed that he could not touch me. And that was the only opportunity where I took a really clean shot and yeah, it should never have happened. So yeah, that's my only complaint. That's why I have to talk about it. I think it's important. Um, but yeah, I don't want the guy to lose his job. I just want us to all learn from these experiences.
Yeah, well, it was an interesting verbal exchange because he said to you, like, is your eye okay? And then you said, no, I got poked. And then he was like, well, are you okay? Right? So it seemed to me like he was asking you if you personally were okay.
From the punch, so
Right,
why
right.
would you ask in what, again, I'm sharp as right there. Like I'm listening to what you're saying, I'm processing what you're saying, and I'm replying accordingly. Like I know that if I ever imply that I cannot continue, then this fight stops and like it's a mess. And I was not rocked. Like I don't know how. Like my ability to roll up punches when he hit me, I went so loose. Like I didn't even see it coming. Like I don't know why that doesn't rock me. Like if there's a something that we really need to figure out, that would be it. But yeah, it was just wasn't a good series of events.
Well, I did my due diligence on it because I don't know if it's still the case in New Jersey, but back in the day in New Jersey, if you got poked in the eye, you had to continue right away. And if you said, like, I can't see, they'd call the fight immediately. So I went and looked, and they do have the unified rules in New York. So thankfully, that wasn't the case.
They would still look at the eye. If I requested the doctor to come in because maybe I needed a towel to wipe my eye. For what the fact is, I was not sure. Like if you like, we're talking about the first 5 seconds of that 50-second thing. I got hit in the eye. I my eyeball did not get touched, but in the moment, all I felt was extreme pressure in my eye. Luckily, the eyelid was down and the finger just went in the eye. So when that happens, it creates a pressure. But in those 3 seconds, you don't know if your eye popped. You don't know if you got poked in the eyeball. You don't know if it was just pressure. You don't know. So, yeah, I needed time to figure out what happened. And the fact that he did not inspect he did not take 1 second to inspect my eye. And then when he says go, I say, hey man, I need my time. And he looks at me and says, you said you're good. Fight. And like that is what happened. So again, why when I look at you and say, hey, I need my time, why do you look back at me and say, no, you're good, instead of fighter safety being the number one priority in your mind? And maybe at that time, you don't even think I got punched. You think I'm lying, but you've already started the procedure called timeout. Like the procedure starts, and there's a procedure that we follow. Sure, I don't need 5 minutes, but you have to at least look in my eye and see what damage is incurred. And then you ask me if I'm okay from the punch, and I have to say yes. And so how am I supposed to know that you're talking about the eye poke again? Like that would be impossible for me to know that.
Yeah, I think you're
Again,
absolutely right.
little bitch, I sound like a little girl. Like I'm telling you, I hear how I sound, but it's just this is just something that
Well, listen, this didn't cost you the fight, right? So, I mean, I think that what you're bringing up is
have.
very valid.
Yeah, but I could have, and that's why I'm bringing it up.
Right, absolutely. Well, it was good that it happened with 15 seconds left in the round rather than 15 seconds into the round because who knows, right? I mean, that's why you're bringing this up. It's just for future so that the referee knows to really go through the procedure and say, hey, do you need time, right? Like, there were a couple steps missing.
We could all learn from that experience.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because there was a time where I put out a really bad scorecard on social media and you called me out for it. And I went and took a judging course after that because I had learned from that experience that, you can always do better. You can always go and learn. And I learned that I was scoring fights completely incorrectly and not looking at the actual judging criteria. And I think that 95% of people that watch fights don't know the full scoring criteria. So I actually want to thank you for that because I think that you weren't calling me out of malice. You just thought that what I was writing didn't make sense.
If you don't know me, I sound too, so critical and harsh, but I'm just calling it as I see it. Like when you said that, like I was flabbergasted that that was a possibility. And then when I said, I hope you take this ratio as a lesson, like I really meant the fact that you were experiencing this ratio should really allow you to take every bias out and then really analyze the situation. That's all I was pointing out, and that's all I meant. I meant nothing bad. It sounded bad, sounded mean, but I was literally just trying to be like, hey, we have to learn from this because something, is not right here. So yeah, that's all it was,
Oh,
and
you're
I'm
right.
glad
I had
that.
the option to take it personally, or I had the option to go and learn, and I took the option to learn, which is the better way of doing things. But yeah, I mean, the first 3 rounds of that fight between Israel and Jan were fairly close, I will say. But I definitely wasn't looking at it through the correct lens of how to score fights, and I did learn a lot from that.
And even what's crazy to me, like even if we touch on it more, so this fight, if he would have taken me down in say the last minute and 30 seconds and been able to gain top control and stay there, I think he would have got the win on the scorecards. And his antics and his pure show of sportsmanship and class, like the human factor, that is scoring points for some reason. But if you were to break down the fight strike by strike and the actual damage incurred, like I won I won the first round. All those cuts and shit came from all the damage that he mostly got from like the cuts and stuff came from that first round. And I'm okay giving him the first round. But the fact that maybe a takedown in the second, third round would have got him the win is crazy to me. And that is literally like we are just living on such a sharp edge of winning and losing, especially in a 3-round fight. Like it's crazy how perfect you have to be.
Well, the main event's a good example of that, right? Because Kamaru, I thought, won the first round hands down. Second round was obviously his round. And then the next 3 rounds, like, I obviously scored Kamaru as the winner of that fight, but,
Yeah.
it's just, he looked so good in those first 2 rounds. And because Colby kind of turned the corner halfway through that fight, like, those last 3 rounds were very crucial to Kamaru retaining the title.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to touch on is if these refs would do their jobs, more proficiently, like why was the my second round with Chandler not a 10-8? So therefore the 10-9 in round 3 would have not been a factor. Why was the second round in the Kamaru Usman fight not an automatic 10-8? He dropped him and the end of the fight was there. You presented that danger and that opportunity for the fight to be over. The ref could have stopped my fight with Chandler. Thank God he didn't. The ref could have stopped the fight with Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington in the second round. So why were those not judged 10-8s? And then it all, and then those guys, because we earned it, not because anything else, other than we earned those 10-8s on those scorecards. So why did that not happen? And then that 10-8, allows me the opportunity that I earned to get taken down in the last minute and a half if it was to happen. And I don't, something catastrophic doesn't happen because of that small takedown compared to my landing that uppercut and getting 2% away from a finish. Like I think those should have been 10-8 rounds. I think that solves the whole issue of, these controversial decisions because it is round by round. But if you're going to judge a round and those dangers are presented, then why don't we get a 10-8?
Well, this is why I'm a proponent of the half-point scoring system, and I just think that the 10-point scoring system doesn't make sense for a 3-round fight in MMA. I can explain to you why they're not 10-8 rounds if you'd like, just from having read the criteria. What the judges are looking for is something called the 3Ds. So it's damage, duration, and dominance. They're looking for all 3 of those things. So if you're getting the damage, it's very rare that they're going to score a 10-8 just on damage, because they need to see dominance in the round and they need to see duration. Now, I think that there was enough damage done in that second round because you nearly finished them in that round. So I definitely think there's a case to make for a 10-8. I think that in the Usman and Covington example, there's a little bit less of a case to make because it was just 2 quick flash knockdowns at the end of the round. Again, I think it's kind of a judgment call, but that's why I think that a half-point system makes so much more sense, because then you can do 10 to 8.5 and then 10 to 9.5 for closer rounds.
Yeah, I think we could have a great debate on that.
All right, well, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the damage was done. The domination was done. Like, if you're actually watching what actually happened between me and Michael Chandler in that round, the damage, if you want to take damage, like, number one, that's why I don't lose number one. Like you have. But how do you understand what damage is being like? It's
Yeah, that's
really
the big problem with the first round of your fight is because in your fight you were off balance, and the judge has to determine whether you being off balance is more damage than you doing physical damage to Chandler, who gets cut easily, right? So they might be taking that into account. I
yeah.
agree with you. I think that first round was really close.
You could say they get cut easily, but dude, no, it's the force that I'm creating with these, and that is what's cutting their face. Like it happens to every single one. Like I've been cut so many times from small jabs that you would never be. My face didn't get cut that fight because I didn't run straight into a bone. That's what happened, And but yeah, the damage, the domination, and what was the last D?
Duration, which is like a long period of time where you're controlling the. I think the second round of your fight you can certainly make a 10-8 case for. The Kamaru one is a little bit more iffy.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's true. I do agree with that. But again, whenever in my mind, whenever you bring a fight that close to a stoppage or a finish, that has to be. If they can't present that in one round and they get a 10-9, and I presented that in one round and I got a 10-9, and this one's a really close round. This one's not, but then they have to be. I mean, sure, 10 to 8.5. I'll give you that too. But
Well, I just think that in a 3-round fight, it makes so much more sense to have a 10 to 8.5 system.
the fact of the matter is, you can never take the human instinct and fallibility, the fallibility of humans into it, and you can't take it out. That's the only way. My answer would be that they need to be in the back. The judges should be in the back watching it on the screen. But again, then you don't see the damage incurred, and you have to hear the shots to understand what shot is more effective. And then you have to have the understanding of knowing what you're watching. It's impossible.
Right, yeah, and it's all human error, right? It's based on the human eye, and I agree with you. And I think in the second round of your fight, you can certainly argue that 2 of the 3 Ds were there, which is what judges will look for a 10-8 round, which is the damage and the domination. I think that both of those were certainly there for your second round,
Yeah.
which, like you said, that is what can make or break a fight for you.
If 5 minutes isn't long enough duration, then nothing will ever be because I dominated him for the duration of that round.
And one thing I want to
And
ask, sorry, go ahead.
round. So you're good.
One thing I want to ask you about is how you're so good at landing leg kicks from boxing range. Like it's something that you just so rarely see in MMA. Is it because unless you're practicing it and drilling it all the time that it actually may be more painful for the person that's throwing the kicks if they're not doing it properly?
It's nothing more than perfect timing. I throw every strike at the very perfect time. Whenever it's all about when their weight is shifting. And to understand what I'm talking about, you would have to. It's just impossible. But yeah, yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it is because you don't see a lot of people do it, right? So it's hard for me to understand because I don't see it very often.
There's a constant rhythm happening in there, and it's you know everyone you're shifting weight back to front, forward to sideways, and every shift has an equal shift the other way or in another direction. Like so, it's all about it's all about like I cannot talk about Newton's 3 laws of physics, but if you can understand those and how they're so correlated to the human body and the way the human body moves, then that is what it is.
All right, I think you got company. I'm going to let you. Who's at the door? Who we got?
What up, man?
Hey, look at that! The Dominator, Dominic Reyes. How's Dominic doing? I saw Dominic is taking a little bit of time off and working with you guys and polishing his tools.
Yeah, he's out here for the week. We're gonna have some fun.
Awesome. Well, I'll leave you to it. Thanks for this, Justin. I appreciate you. Appreciate your incredible fighting style, and I hope to speak with you again soon.
All right, man. See you later. Have a good day.